Ready for some warm weather.
I better stop eating these or I'm gonna be all.
Going to Hawaii?
Oh, almost.
We had,
Yeah, if anybody wants.
what's
one,
that?
I'll-
Maui. Maui?
It's cashews.
Have you been before?
Oh, no, maybe you got almonds. I got cashews.
Okay.
Yeah.
On the way
I can't
to,
do-
where you staying?
North of Canapoli.
Okay. So if you go out, heading on Lahaina way, Leota's Pie Shop, have you been?
Good.
Leota's Sandwich and Pie Shop?
Yeah.
No, they have a sandwich there called pork.
Oh my
Really?
God,
It's
I
pork
wanna
three-
go
it's
there.
pork 3 ways. Yeah,
Nice.
my favorite sandwich shop on the island. And the pies are pretty good too.
How was Vietnam?
Loved the countryside. Hanoi was cool, but I'm glad I brought my inhaler with me. The pollution at night, you look out and it's like, it was like a scene out of Blade Runner. It's like, the Tyrell Corporation is out there somewhere.
My son and wife were there at the exact same time you were.
Yeah,
Said the exact same thing.
Yeah.
He said this, the Hanoi, the city, it was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Major small.
yeah, it was major smog, but the food was amazing.
Good.
We went on a food tour there. We went on a private food tour there. We went on another private food tour in Bangkok,
Okay.
and that was fun.
He was over there.
And they're getting ready for Tet and the Lunar New Year, so people were starting to
Right.
decorate and stuff, and in Bangkok, it was fun because the gal, we were in Chinatown, so she was like taking us to these different restaurants, and she's like, okay, we're gonna cut down this alley, and I'm like, I'm glad you're with me, because it's like, I would never go down there, because I'd wake up without a kidney.
Alright, let's get this meeting going.
All right,
It is 6:31. Let's do the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have a quorum. We have Counselor Hildebrandt coming in via Zoom. And we've got the only people we're missing is Counselor Typro. He has an excused absence and what's we're missing, is that it? Yeah, yeah. Feels weird. Okay, anyways.
it doesn't happen. all the
I know, right?
time. I'm missing one.
Okay, so let's move on to appearance of interested citizens. It looks like we're not have somebody in the audience. No, not tonight. Okay. Then we'll move on to the consent agenda.
I have
Yes,
none of what's posted here list excused or unexcused for the absences. And is it possible to go back and add that? Because I think it's important to know if they don't comment.
yeah, we're gonna
Do we
talk
want
about, we're gonna not even talk about it tonight. At the next work session, we're gonna talk about stuff like that.
Okay,
I brought it up too as well, just,
So,
okay.
all right.
So on the agendas, is now when if I notice something in there as well. Okay, the January 7th meeting was actually on January 6th.
What?
So, and I only remember that because I was sworn in that day and it was Epiphany, so I remember
It's
the
probably-
yeah, you're right, we left on the subject. Yeah.
And then the February 3. Only other thing I noticed was the February 3 is at the top is labeled as a special meeting, special session, but it's a regular session. Probably should. With that. Otherwise, oh my gosh.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as amended.
1 second.
I have a motion from Counselor McGuire and a second from Counselor Mackin. Any more questions or concerns about the consent agenda? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Right, moving on To our action items, we are going to do the second reading and adoption of ordinance 665 text amendment to update chapter 7 of the Dayton Land Use and Development Code to state policy. This is a continued, do we have to close the hearing tonight?
It
Because
was
it's kind of
closed last
continued.
time.
So do we have to reopen it just for this? Oh, hallelujah. Oh, good God. Okay, so we'll move on to that. Second reading, please. That's it.
Ordinance number 665, City of Dayton, an ordinance amending sections 7.1.2, 7.2.1, 7.2.3, 7.2.4, 7.3.1, 7.3.2 of Title 7 Dayton Land Use and Development Code of the Dayton Municipal Code.
Excellent. Have a first or second reading and if I could get a motion.
I move to approve a second reading of ordinance 665
By title.
by title only.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Counselor Althuber and a second by Counselor McGuire. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Madam Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I move to adopt ordinance 665 based on the findings and recommendations set forth in the February 3rd, 2025 staff report for land use application 2024-02.
Second.
Yeah, the motion from Counselor McGuire and a second from Counselor Peterson. All those in favor?
I,
All right.
All right. We are on to appointment of the budget committee member, page 75. Right, no, right. All right, we, looks like
Daniel,
Daniel Holbrook applied.
That was good.
Yeah,
yes,
so
I
I don't,
move to approve, Daniel.
right on.
I'll second that.
I got a motion from Counselor Mackin and a second from Counselor McGuire. All those in favor?
I,
Aye.
Aye. All right.
Mr. President.
well, what you didn't.
No, he was a
He was
counselor
a city
prior,
councilor,
Yeah, yes,
so that's fine.
But I read.
and we know him.
yes.
Okay, and then we're on to action item number 3, because I can't speak, let me re-speak that. Page 77, the discussion of resolution of inclusiveness. There were several different reasons we're bringing this up. One, because we want all parties, like Kitty in a wheelchair or whatever, to feel included, as well as our community members who are Hispanic. We almost have half of our population is Hispanic. So we don't want them to feel like they don't belong or they feel threatened and all of that. So we want to just sort of revisit that and maybe just sort of reestablish it again. If anybody has any problems, questions, concerns? Yes, sir.
So the motion says that it went into effect immediately upon passage and shall
It did.
continue into perpetuity until revoked or replaced, which has not happened, so.
Well, the reason I wanted people to look at it was to see if there was anything else they wanted to change about it or
Oh,
just
okay.
re-adopt it.
Well, it doesn't need to be readopted.
Well, I just want us to sort of,
Bring it top of mind.
I just want people to understand that we have
Have
this
this in place.
Right.
and we support our community, plain and simple. And sometimes I think bringing it back out is a good idea and a reinforcement for all parties.
Okay,
Revisiting.
what is the proposed,
I'm
where
not,
is this in?
if somebody wants to change something, put some different words in or whatever, we can leave it or we can change it, whatever you'd like to do. It's discussion.
Um. Who brought this up?
I will say I did,
Okay, I'd love to hear what's going on.
thank you, yes, I'd love to talk about it. Some things happened in the park last summer, there have been some things that fell through the cracks. The wheelchair accessibility has been lacking and inclusion things happen without wheelchairs even being talked about. This was, I'm the only one who was here in 17 when that was passed. So I'm pretty certain some people didn't even know we had it. It's just a reminder that we as a city have pledged to be inclusive, supportive of everybody. We don't discriminate. But I'm thinking that I need something more concrete. The League of Oregon City has something called an equity lens. And the Rotary has the four-way test. Everything we think, say, and do passes through. I'll go back to the equity lens. Have we done everything we can to make sure everybody is supported? Have we done everything we can to make sure everybody feels safe, included? I'm looking for something more concrete. Actions, not just words. Actions for me that will include reserved wheelchair seating whenever the city of Dayton gets together. If people see that, hey, I have a reserved space, they might come out, or they might tell a family member to come on out. We don't get many wheelchairs at the park. Because it's kind of rough. We're working on it. But what I'm looking for is we revisit this, make sure we know that it's in play, and then we do a little bit more action. So thank you.
Alright. Counselor. Drew, sorry.
So, just to confirm and make sure I'm tracking right. So since the resolution in and of itself does not need to be readopted because it is in effect in perpetuity, this is essentially a conversation on more so a reaffirmation of sorts. So to bring it up, and then this can kind of be, a guiding star in a way when it comes to our goal setting, and then we pivot to more of an operations sense. So this is, the waypoint in a way, and just to kind of reaffirm that. Am I tracking that correctly?
Exactly.
Perfect. Nothing to add on top of that. I just wanted to make sure that that's the framework.
Was this, I guess my one question is this being done in response to things that are happening here in the city or things that are happening nationally?
Both.
Yeah.
Okay, my concern about not having this focused on the city is that my personal belief is that national politics have no place in local government. Man, well, because I asked the question, if this is being done based on what's happening nationally, and the answer is yes.
Yes, but
Both.
it's not just because of the politics. It
No.
has to do with the purpose that people are scared.
I understand that. But respectfully, I would like to be able to say my piece.
Sure.
National politics have no place in local government. I don't necessarily, with everything that's going on right now, and everything that's been going on both nationally and locally, with 2 election cycles ago, PAC money coming into Dayton politics of a town of 2,700 people. We don't need that ISR on turning to Dayton. We've seen what happens when it's been turned on Newburgh, when it's been turned on Dundee, when it's been turned on McMinnville. We've been accused of making decisions, based on, personal issues. I never saw it with the previous council. But, I don't, if we're gonna do this based on concerns that are happening in the city of Dayton, I'm happy to support it. If we're doing it based on what's happening nationally, I don't think we need that, and we don't want to set the precedent that our local politics are gonna be starting to be influenced or anything else by national politics. I mean, we're never gonna vote on abortion, we're never gonna vote on marriage equality, we're never gonna vote on immigration. None of that has anything to do with our city. So we have a resolution, it's in perpetuity. If Councilor Mackin has, some specific concerns about wheelchair access and things like that, I mean, absolutely, let's talk to the city manager, because that's operations. We already got the policy in place. I'm just concerned that we don't want to bring that to us, because I don't I personally don't want more PAC money coming into our local elections. It should be about what the people here do and not what, ideologies of money coming out of national politics or even from the richest man in the world could potentially do here. And that's not what we want. That's just my
Did you have some, Councilor Mackey?
I would like to revise this statement. This is more about how the people of Dayton and Oregon and the US, I mean, we can add everybody else. If there's any connection out of Dayton, it's in that we are showing solidarity to some of the other people, all over the country. But I'm willing to revise this and say, this is about what's happened here in Dayton. And we need to show solidarity to the people of Dayton. And
That is my purpose.
yeah,
For it.
that's,
It
Is
kind
there-
of stems from the federal thing, but I just wanted to reiterate to all of our community members through this, when you brought it up, that we support them, plain and simple. I didn't want to bring politics into it. I just want our community members to know, we support them. We're here for them. And all those things that we, agreed to as a council, we still intend on honoring those things.
Yeah, I think the wording in here is amazing. I think there's terrific wording about being welcoming, inclusive, compassionate, they need to feel safe. I think this is really good language, and I think it's good to say,
Reaffirm it.
hey, y'all, this is who we are, and this
too
is
many
how.
words is part of the
Yeah.
problem, but yeah, they were good words. We weren't the only ones who did this.
So I think it's good to stand behind it.
But then again, maybe what we need to do is to let the community know, somehow talk about this so that it might be words, but maybe it'll help them feel a little bit safer. The city is in support of me. They're not going to hurt me. They're not going to make life worse. Maybe that's the purpose of tonight. How can we let the community know we have this and that we are in support of them? What could,
Yes, sir.
No, sorry, go ahead, finish your point, no.
it was just a repeat, a rephrase of the question, what can we do to help them feel safer?
So a question I'll pose is that, is there an example of a city that has done this really, really well? And then on the flip side, is there an example of a city that has not done this not done this well? The reason I pose that question is because I am not sure that this is waters we need to step our toes into further. I think we've made our point from where we're at here. I would be okay with some jargon change if we feel it's not totally all encompassing. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not saying we need to get rid of it. I just wonder that by blasting the message out, by projecting the message out, are we almost saying, is there ulterior readings within it? That's my take, because I've just grown up in a community and a lifestyle where this was all normal. There was no
Right.
this, we didn't have to state this for it to be an obvious fact. Now, granted, things have changed, right? And so I can't say what has been in my history is still current for today. So I'll go back to the question. Is there an example of a city
Yes,
that does really well?
I can tell you what did really bad.
Let's hear that.
That was right here in this town.
Okay, tell me more.
We will not do anything in Spanish. We will not, basically any kowtowing to, as it were. It was said loudly, clearly, in a lot of different ways.
Educate me, when was this?
A former mayor
Oh,
and some of the councilors.
okay, got it. You follow.
If I may,
And it hurt a lot of people's feelings.
the librarian a long time ago was opposed to sending summer reading program materials out in Spanish.
Oh, Well,
That's a long
a
time
bad-
ago,
Yeah.
and that got fixed. But that's the kind of reluctance we've had in the past.
Okay,
And that's my purpose. For having that reintroduced, not because I'm sending extra signals anyplace,
sure.
just so people in the community know. We love our community. I love Dayton. I want everybody in Dayton to feel safe and happy. So. That was it for me, because I have a lot of Hispanic friends that don't feel happy and safe right now.
All right, hey,
So, but it had nothing to do necessarily with all the
Mhm.
politics.
so if the example of what a place that could do better is our own selves.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a decent way to look in the mirror. Is there a city that we think we should model ourselves after? That
That
check,
would be research, I think.
anybody top of mind, got anything?
Well, I think, personally, I think we've self-corrected. I mean, this is an obvious example of that. And I think Counselor, I don't want to speak for you, Counselor, but I think you and I are of the same mind on this one. It's like, I understand where you're coming from, Madam Mayor, but there's always the law of unintended consequences. And we've already seen that the newspapers watch our YouTube videos, because a couple of articles came out about stuff where the reporter wasn't here. And articles were written about what stuff we did here. I was in the paper, I didn't even know it, and then suddenly it's like, oh crap, okay, they're actually listening. They do, you know, yeah, but. That's what I'm concerned about, is the law of unintended consequences, and it's like. You know, having it, I wish more people would show up, so that's like when we had these conversations and we had it on the agenda, they could hear us and know that they're cared for. But I just don't necessarily know if. Picking up the megaphone and blasting it out
Oh, yeah.
in this environment is. What we need to be doing as a council, you know, we've got issues with. You know, trying to get, the bridge up, and we've got lift stations to pay for, and we've got sewers to replace, and we've got. Sidewalks and leaks we didn't know about, and wells that are drying up. And we have this, it's in perpetuity. My thing would be is like, if no one on the council has any changes to the language. Then. We can say as a council, we stand by what was passed in 2017, and we kind of leave it at that. You know, with, of course, Councilor Mackin's, continued conversations with the city about. Texas.
Councilor Hildebrand.
Yeah, so I want to jump in on this for a second because I want to make sure we're not gaslighting, Councilor Mackin in this. Councilor Mackin, when she brought this up, did not mention national politics in any way, shape, or form. She was talking about accessibility, specifically in the capacity of, Dayton Friday nights, and nothing about, the concrete examples that Councilor Mackin was discussing was national politics brought up in any way. National politics were brought up afterwards, and in a way, it seems like to me used to maybe skew what was being proposed. So I do think it's important for us to make sure that we look at the context of this original resolution as well. Look at the date, right? So adopted on the third day of April 2017. April 2017 was a bit of a tumultuous time. Now, no matter where in this anybody lands, it is easy to say that that point in time was tumultuous. And so something like this was like, hey, look, populace, we've got your back. No matter who you are, we've got your back. You are, members of Dayton, and we support you. And so I think if we kind of dial the rhetoric back a little bit when it comes to national politics, I think the intent of this is just we're in a bit of a tumultuous time right now. When we went down to City Day at the Capitol, it was a lot of grant concerns. It was a lot of water concerns. It was a lot of infrastructure concerns. And so, pull national politics out of this, because the reality is that, there's a lot of tumultuousness just with a lot of the things that we need to get done every single day. And, the examples that Kitty was bringing up, I don't think really were geared towards, the national side of things. And so I just want to make sure that we're, being fair to Kitty in this, in that we don't want to try to say that she was going a certain way and lead the conversation that direction. So, I think that a reaffirmation of this is completely fair because we didn't get any kind of pushback from what I understand when this came about at this moment in time when you could make the same exact arguments that we're making right now of those concerns. Did we see any kind of lashback from that? Because if we didn't, and all we're here to say at this moment in time is, hey, what we said then, we're saying the same thing now. We're good. We got you, and we're moving on. So, I want to make sure that we're not trying to lead us down a path of problems. Is kind of essentially where I'm coming from with this. That's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Councilor Martin.
I think part of the reason we didn't have any lashback is that I didn't see it. I think it might have appeared in the news register once. We didn't talk about it. It was, well, we did this, but we can't upset certain people. So we know we did it. We know what we're doing. As far as making it work, let's build this program that I mentioned in the letter. Let's make Dayton into a wheelchair-friendly town, the most wheelchair-friendly tourist town in Yamhill County at least. Then we can say, hey, we lived this resolution. We can be an example for others. Doesn't have to be political.
What letter are you talking about?
Mr. Ruckelos had me write a letter in support of a $10,000 grant to get a wheelchair ramp up to the bandstand. In the interest of tourism, bringing tourists in here. And I kind of played it up. Let's make this the most wheelchair friendly tourist town in the county.
So, before we start diving into this discussion any further, I wanna dial it back. Do you have any verbiage changes? All right then.
I guess I feel like we should I think this is fabulous. I'm glad it was brought up. I think we, need to say,
Yay,
we're
we
gonna walk the
reaffirm it.
talk.
Okay,
We're gonna make decisions based on it.
I like it.
perfect.
Thank you. Yeah.
Moving on. All right, we're gonna do, council comments and concerns. I'm gonna start with Councilor Hildebrand.
Just one, I wanted to give kudos to staff for the city county dinner. That was a phenomenal experience. It really made the town look good. The presentation was great with Paul. Everything like the raffles, everybody was engaged. Everybody who attended, it was clear was very impressed, especially when they stood up to talk about, their respective towns. They immediately were giving kudos at the beginning of that and afterwards had some conversations, following where it was nothing but positive feedback. That was great. Utilizing that space for the first time for that dinner was really cool. So, all around from start to finish, really impressive, everybody. Good job. That's all I got.
All right, we're gonna start with Councilor Racket on this end then.
Oh, good. Well, I did that 3-day, city, county insurance. Seminar. It was some scary stuff on Law Enforcement Day. We are behind the 8 ball when it comes to drugs and human trafficking even. Unfortunately, as far as I can tell, they just talking about what went wrong and nobody's talking about how do we fix it. If there was no demand, there'd be no supply. If we get rid of our demand for drugs, then they won't have anybody to sell it to. That's the only way we're gonna stop them. It was kind of discouraging. But there was also things in terms of building. I saw Rocio there. Building teams. This was for employees of cities, but it was an interesting piece on trust. Trust isn't earned, trust isn't given, trust is reciprocal. And building a teamwork of trust is a big deal for people. And I used it mostly to do networking. I talked about getting people off, down. In case of fire, don't use the elevator. Well, how are you gonna get the wheelchair down? I have a whole bunch of people talking about that now. They're going back home and they're gonna be talking about that. And I did my own little thing. I started conversations by saying, have you ever wanted to pet a fluffy cow? And then I said, well, when I got him, I knew I was gonna hug him and squeeze him, so I named him George. And most people got that from a cartoon. So this is what helped me talk to people. They did a silly game. They wanted people up in the front row and they gave everybody raffle tickets and they pulled one raffle ticket for every session. I was in the front row every single session and not once was my ticket pulled. But I still won. I had cool interactions with people every single session, so I won. There you have it. Like I said, a lot of people, Beverly Cleary was talked about a lot. Dad jokes were talked about a lot. Some big burly guy, maybe about Don's size, came up and petted George and talked about how he has a sloth and a capybara and it was, and then, well, I got this. It was a good experience and I am looking, oh. The dinner Wednesday night, I kind of goofed. I need somebody to drive my car. I can't drive after dark. It's just not a good thing. Is anybody available to carpool? Or, I mean, if I can't find a carpool, I might need to give the ticket away.
For which part, what?
The cock dinner Wednesday. Um,
I'll see if I can. Finagle it.
thank you. I'm, this thing takes up too much room and I lost a seat. I only have room for 2 people in my car besides me. This thing's a pain. Anyway, I picked up a lot more information throughout the evening, or throughout the 3 days. But I think I can feed that a little bit here and a little bit there as it becomes relevant. So, I highly recommend the experience. Thank you.
Nothing from me.
Okay. Really quick. We are gonna talk about council rules and things like that, work session. There's a open house for the transportation. Please attend, everybody, if you can, please. It's a good time to talk to all of our community members and get their input and know that we're listening. And then. That's, oh, they fixed my light down there on the corner.
There you go.
Happy mayor. Yeah. Well, now I don't feel like we're like in the middle of darkness out there. Anyways, that's all I got. So, Counselor McGuire.
Nothing tonight.
Okay, Counselor Peters.
Nothing, thank you.
All right. We'll move on to our informational reports then, and we'll go on to Dave.
Okay, won't be too long this evening. After 18 months, we have now gotten sign approval from ODOT to put a sign on Highway 18 in that area that's been cleared.
Ching, ching, ching.
I guess perseverance pays off. It's amazing how you can send them a note and won't get a response for 2 months, but keep reminding them and you'll eventually get one. So
Squeaky wheel.
we're gonna start moving forward with that and working on that. The Travel Oregon competitive grant submission has been put in, and that is for the bandstand ramp. So that was submitted a week ago. Thank you for the letters of support from everyone. Now we sit and wait for the next 30, 60 days and then we find out. But I think it's well written and I'm hoping that we get received positively. We have made a federal grant submission through our lobbyist, who Jeremy and I met with earlier this year. He has made a submission on behalf of the Springs water transmission line replacement. So that's the one that's 30 years old, coming down from the Springs. 100 years old, look at, so it's 100 years old. Geez, anyway, it's old and we're going back after that. The lobbyist reached out to me today to indicate when Salinas and the House will go forward with their own propositions, and so this will be resubmitted with the House as well. So we'll have two shots at it through the Senate and the House to try and secure funding. As you may all know, it certainly was in the community report and so forth, but the Bay House Restaurant will be going into the Brick Hall building. They are formerly a restaurant that was down at Salishan Lodge. Yes, they are certainly, what do they call it when you do a prefix? It's a prefix? Is that what you call it? Yeah, yeah. So that's similar to our people down the street here at the Palmer House. So anyway, they're excited to come on board. Their names are Steve Wilson and Maureen O'Callahan. And I would imagine that we'll get an opportunity to meet them directly before they open. The last
Do you
thing
have a date for
is,
that?
what's that? They haven't given one yet. The last thing is we need to set a date for our footbridge ribbon cutting. I was told today that Salinas now is looking at the week of either April 14th or 21st to be out this way. The idea being able to invite her out as part of it, as well as everybody else that was involved in it. There's a pretty long list. So I wanted to run that by you to see if what you felt about that. I can work on the date in those 2 weeks, if that works for everybody. If it rains, we can set up canopy tents. We got all sorts of things we can do. But anyway, I wanted to inform you of that. Maybe what we could do is come to a conclusion at our next meeting as to when that date might be. So if you all look at your calendars, week of 14th and 21st.
April.
Yes, of April, thinking, like 5 o'clock, something like that.
In the evening?
Yeah, in the evening, that works. I know better for those who are working on a day or out of town. And then we could all, we'll send out invitations. We have a scissors.
Let's do it on Earth Day.
Yeah.
It's the 22nd.
I love that. That'll maybe also motivate
Promote it.
somebody, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's good. I'll suggest that, and then I'll come back to you either in email or through the meeting and confirm.
Great.
And that's it for me. Obviously you've seen the bandstand, right? Coming along, looks good, pretty happy with it. They're doing a great job. And then one last thing I'd like to say, I took 5 minutes earlier this evening just to walk around the merchant block when the construction workers weren't there. So I could just look in, feel comfortable, walk around the back on Commerce. Yeah, everyone here should do that. It's incredible. It's gonna be a fabulous addition to the city.
I did it 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
It was
The
fabulous.
the back alley is really coming together. They did some more work on that. It looks really good. And they cleaned up a lot of the mess, so you can get around a little easier. I mean, there were a lot of boards and this and that, so it's better. So
Yeah.
anyway, do that because it's worth it, and it won't be long and they'll be opening that up. So they are also looking at giving you guys a tour beforehand, especially upstairs of the hotel rooms and so forth.
Remind them there's handicappers.
I will definitely, they've got a nice elevator at the entry, and
I need to know more.
yeah, so it's gonna be, I'll let you know when that gets scheduled. Okay, that's it.
Right. We're on to our public works.
All right.
I read the newsletter.
I've got a decent amount covered. Our reservoir levels are still operating at normal levels. The wells are still very on the low side. We're still mid-30s in all of our wells when they're running, so we are not recovering. Nothing has changed there. We had some work done down at the treatment plant. It was actually completed today. We had to change a check valve on one of the distribution pumps, so we don't have water flowing backwards through the system. Nothing really major. It was just component wore out over time. It's been in there since 2004, so. We're working to get some issues over at the community center taken care of. We haven't had the greatest luck with our vendor that we've been dealing with the fire alarm system. So we have reached out to a different company, sat down, discussed things with them. They came out, looked at it, kind of did a preliminary, this is what we think. They're actually supposed to be coming out to try and fix the problem, because we've had it where every 24 hours randomly, the fire alarm will go off. So we've had rentals that have been disrupted by this. Public works staff has had to come in to reset the alarm in the middle of these events. So we're also dealing with the heater upstairs in the auditorium, the big one that's up there that we had installed last summer. There's a panel inside the unit that burned up. Usually it's caused from like a power surge. Anyways, long story short, it's under warranty. It's supposed to be fixed this week.
What if we have another power surge?
When we talked with them, the guy said that he had, on that model, he has never seen the issue. They called tech support and it's been twice they've seen it. So,
We're lucky in Dayton. That's
Yeah.
all I
That's
got.
how special we are.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, yeah, free of charge. It's supposed to be fixed this week, so we don't have to use space heaters up there. So,
Good Lord.
221 lift station. It's moving forward. We had a little bit of a hiccup. They were hoping to get some paving done out there, where they had to dig up the sidewalk for some infrastructure. Weather didn't hold, so they're hoping tentatively maybe next week to do some paving out there. On the good side though, if everything holds to schedule, on the 10th, the backup generator will be delivered to the location. So that was a huge win for us. The storm line repair down here on 3rd Street. We've been working with Twin Towers to figure out the funding on that and come up with an agreement for basically them helping fund that for us so we can get that project buttoned up. It's one of the last hurdles infrastructure wise that we've been waiting on. We've got all of our quotes. Dave's been dealing with them. Jeremy's, I think, involved with talking with them as well. So we're just kind of waiting to hear back so we can get that pipe replaced so that they don't have standing water issues on that property now that they put all that money in there.
And do I remember right, that it's our responsibility, but they're being nice and helping us? For the cost? Yes, that's right, okay.
Yeah. It was one of those ODOT's pipes that now became our pipe. So, yeah. We just happen to be lucky.
Yeah,
Yeah, we give it to you, but we
Right.
don't give it to you.
Yeah. Denny is working on the final stages of the design for the tie-in. If things work out with that emergency deal with Lafayette. We actually got the last bit of information today from our vendor, who was at the treatment plant for the other job. So Denny can finalize the last piece that he was waiting for, information wise. So we should have the design all ready to go if and when we get the approval to set that into place as an emergency. Courthouse Square Park, the trees have been trimmed and removed. You will notice that there's still a tree over by the bathroom that had some damage to it. They decided to leave that due to the health of the tree. They believe that tree is still very much a healthy tree and not a hazard. They're supposed to get with us in the next week or two to come out. There's a couple of jagged branches that are still there that they want to clean up. And also they are working on a quote for us to do basically some mitigation and hazard work over at Brookside. That is all going to be, my understanding, that's all going to be dependent on a grant, but we need a quote to submit with it. So
Cindy asked if I could get a quote for that, so
Probably.
we are just waiting to hear back on that price tag. GSI, they are scheduled to come out on the 12th to do our annual water level readings. They do it for the joint well system and Fisher Farms wells. So we will have that information shortly after they come out on the 12th to do the measurements for us. Friday, Dave and myself went and picked up the vac truck. We got that back. It's repaired. It's ready to go. So that's huge for public works, for water leaks and being able to do stuff a lot more efficiently than with the little vac trailer, having to go dump it every 10 minutes, so. You might see crews out running around. I had them start today. We had quite a few street signs that were faded, damaged. So they were out cleaning ones that are still good, but needed to be cleaned, and then replacing damaged ones that faded. And then lastly, the only.
Did you know it's Drew's hand?
Oh, Drew's got a question.
Small thing, just a quick question with regard to the Lafayette tie-in. Do we have an estimate of cost for that at this point in time, or is it still kind of too early in the preliminary planning stages?
It's in this, isn't that 30, 40 something thousand?
Jeremy's report.
Yes, it's in my report.
39,226.
And then the last thing I got is, I happened to be in the park over the weekend. Just with my family, we were down there with some friends. I had an instance with a couple of young males ripping signs out of the ground and swinging them around like swords. So I politely had that put back in the ground. The guys took care of it today. But after that, they went over to the fencing for the bandstand. They were over there rattling that, trying to climb the fence. So if you happen to see anything while you're out and about town, please say something.
10 to 12-year-olds coming from that direction.
Probably a little bit older. I would say 13, 14, maybe.
Well-
I mean, the kid was almost as tall as me that I was talking to.
I know
So,
these kids these days.
but yeah, my staff does everything they can when they're in town to keep an eye on things over the weekend. But if you see something, definitely say something, because and nothing else, we need to be aware of where we need to go and repair things. So
I saw a picture of you with your kid as like a student of the month. Cool.
yeah,
Were you the student of the month? Or you're-
that's up for debate. That's all I got.
Oh, excellent. Woo. Jeremy,
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody. First, I'd like to recognize the city team. I'd like to recognize Dave, Rocio, Cindy for the excellent work in coordinating the city-county dinner. That was a lot of fun, and we set the bar high for everybody else. Good job. I'd like to commend the Public Works team for their work in response to the windstorm last week. Within a day's time, they had Courthouse Square just about cleaned up. You didn't notice it, or you may not have noticed it, but at the water treatment plant, they had some brush come down. They got that cleaned up the watershed. They had some brush come down and they got that cleaned up. So those guys were on it. Great job. Some other items, these aren't in my report, but I want to bring it to your attention. The Chief of Staff for State Senator Starr would like to come out here and meet with us. With the legislature being in session, Thursday mornings early work better for him. He can pop by here on his way to Salem. So like 7 o'clock in the morning, if one or two members of council are interested in participating in that.
I'll be here, but
And you're free early on a Thursday, let me know and I'll set that up. It's been a while since we've had a full report on our utility bridge and pump station, Highway 221 pump station project. I've asked the city engineer to prepare a report for your April meeting to give a full update on those projects, including project status, budget status, any roadblocks, when we anticipate closing everything out. I asked him to prepare a full report for you. Also, with budget season underway, this will be the first year that we prepare a budget for an urban renewal agency. You will see at a future meeting appointments to the budget committee for the urban renewal agency. We can take the current members for the city budget committee and appoint them to the urban renewal agency. I just want you to be aware that that will be coming to you at a future meeting. Okay, now moving on to what I have in my report. Sewer rate increases went into effect in February. This is according to resolution 2324-07, which was approved in December 2023. This was to service the debt on the loans for the lift station and utility bridge projects. The amount of the increase is $13.67 per month. I've asked for the financing agencies to provide me with debt amortization schedules. Business Oregon has provided that to me. First estimated payment about $52,000, with the first payment due in December. When I have the amortization schedule from DEQ, the finance director and I can start planning for how these increases are going to be allocated to this service, this debt. I've requested an extension for our American Rescue Plan Act grant with Yamhill County. This is for the $511,000 grant they contributed for the pump station. Since that's over my spending authority, I believe it's appropriate to bring that to you at a future meeting, which I will be doing. The finance director has been working daily with the external auditor to complete the annual financial statement audit. She thinks it's likely that we'll be able to meet that deadline. I have to say it makes it challenging as we're starting budget season not to have final audited numbers for the previous fiscal year. So as I'm working on the budget, and if I'm presenting information to the budget committee and there are journal entries or other changes, that will ripple through the work that I've already done. So I just want you to be aware of that. In February, we closed on Dayton Villages. This was, I believe, a 2-year project, and it represents a significant win for affordable housing. I recommend that the council provide direction to staff at your March planning retreat on how we're going to apply the $308,000 that we netted from that transaction. But the budget process is underway. I've distributed directions and submission requirements to the departments. I've had discussions with the city of Lafayette on their request for credits. They're not using the joint well field, but they're still having to pay for it, and they've requested credits in response to that. We talked about a possible framework for that within the context of a renegotiated IGA, which also dovetails with the interim measure to use their transmission line. On that note, the mayor, council president, public works supervisor, city engineer, and I are scheduled on March 13th to talk to the Lafayette City Council about that interim measure. The Planning Commission was set to receive a presentation on the Parks Master Plan project that has been rescheduled to March 13th. There's an open house, excuse me, open house scheduled March 6th for the transportation system planning. I would echo the mayor's encouragement to come out, listen and learn and offer your voice. The COG is presenting weekly updates as we learn more about the federal funding issues. I'm participating in that. I know most of you have already scheduled your Zoom meeting with Jensen Strategies to prepare for the planning session. If you haven't already scheduled that with them, I encourage you to do so. I'm also tracking legislation in Salem for infrastructure funding to support housing construction. What questions do you have for me? Yes, ma'am.
With the Highway 221 lift station. Getting ready, it sounds like we're close to bringing it online. Will that be the switch that triggers the development to begin out there on Neck Road, on that property? Are we getting ready to be able to start developing that? No? Bummer.
No, but I
What
think,
else do we need? Is it simple?
a whole lot, is my understanding.
Oh,
Water.
What?
oh, well, okay, yeah.
Good answer.
Rocio can speak to that.
So it's still in the pre-application process and then it has to go through planning commission and all of that.
It's
So it's still a ways away.
Oh, okay. Oh,
Um,
well.
but in Jeremy's report, the planning commission is gonna be reviewing an application for an 8 lot subdivision. coming up.
Where is that coming?
Fourth and Mill. So just down the street, if you keep going straight, it's little tiny.
It's on the corner.
Is it right here down, like down on this corner where he takes a bend and it's tucked back in there, that wood
Yes.
block?
Yeah, it's like a slip lot down
Yeah,
there.
yeah, People have been trying to develop that for like 10 or 15 years.
That's kind of neat and kind of off, you know what I mean? Nobody knows it's there.
You got dead people as your neighbors.
Cool. Okay, anyways, so I just, if you haven't read the little issue that came out, Ferry Street News, read it. There's lots of good fun information in there. As well as, some stating the dates. There's the March 6th open house for the transportation. The Easter egg hunt. I know your kids would love that.
Oh, yeah.
Yours too.
Every year.
And then, of course, there's
They've already planned it.
the pre,
You haven't sent it.
huh?
Did you get that in the mail?
I did it.
Ours just came today.
I already read it too. Anyways. But like I said, there's a lot of good information and upcoming, information about, the, old timers stuff is already coming out. So if you're into that or have family that's into that, then good. Anyways, we're done with the night, so we can adjourn. All those in favor? Okay. All right, we are adjourned 7:26.
All right.
I guess, thank you,
Oh, yes.